So it's been asked, what changed my life to get to the point I am now? It was a few different things. And how did I change it? I had to relearn how to talk. I had to relearn processes and what I thought was what I wanted to be and who society wanted me to be. I didn't have to be that any longer. I've done some pretty bad things throughout my life, and I've done some pretty good things too as well. But it was when my daughter was born that really changed me. And it's not cliche. People say that, but it's the truth. So I needed to figure out how to make a living and not just survive with another mouth to feed. And what I decided to do was, I'd always had two jobs, but I knew that it was going to take a few years in order to even start seeing a change. If you've known, I've sold apples, I've picked cotton. What you don't know is I've worked in a steel mill, and that too helped me believe that I could change because of some of the things that I saw. So one was my daughter being born. The other one that made me realize that I needed to change my life was working at the steel mill. And at the steel mill, there's these plates of metal. Think of them like a sheet of paper. If you've ever known a pack of paper or the copier paper. And they're set up in like these, I guess it would be these upright bins that are metal. And they can range from the sheets can range from 1/8 of an inch thick all the way up to 15, 16 inches thick. And we had these big metal contraptions, jaws, and we called them dogs. And what the dog would do is you would have to go, and it looked like a Pac-Man. It had these little things, and it had some teeth inside of this ridge that would catch the metal and then bring it up. And you carry this across a factory over people's heads on a crane that is operated by a man. And if they slipped, if the sheets of metal slipped out of this dog, it acted like I don't know like a feather or like a sheet of paper. If you take it and you throw it up in the air and it comes down like this, but it's not soft. These are thousands of pounds. These are sometimes tons worth of material that is coming down and is swinging over a man's head. We also had what they call blanchie grinders, and that would grind this metal down for parts that you see in a lot of your bridges. We built some of the parts for bridges, some of the parts for Komatsu cranes, like large equipment. We built floors for factories like Honda and Ford and GM. and you would have to cut holes in them. Well, there was this one particular day, and I was off. And a piece of metal, they took one of these metals, I think it was a 2-inch thick piece. So this is tons of metal. They took it up with the dog. Now you would get up on top of here and you walk across. It's just rolls and rolls of metal. And you'd walk across and you'd have to stand, have someone bring this dog down. You'd have to visually adjust to where you think the center of this is, because some of them have holes cut out of them. You lock this, put this dog on here, and then it was a big, looked like a thumb, and you click that in, and that would hold that metal in place. And then you would step back. This is the man, this was the most enjoyable, scary job, one of them that I have had. I really did love that job, but it did not pay. It did not pay enough for the stuff at the time that we had to do. So you're standing on this teetering other pieces of metal, watching this one piece of metal come up, and then when it came up, it was your job to run across, grab the piece of metal that's swinging, and guide it out so that it kind of slowed down. And then you would go off of this ladder and go down and take a hold of the crane, and you go over to this table and you lay the metal down and you cut it. Well, this particular day, the metal came up and it started swinging. But the crane operator, he did not hit the buttons fast enough to slow it down, and the crane needed repair. So that metal swung and it came off of this dog. The little thumb popped up, the metal shot out, it came floating down like a piece of paper. The guy who was holding the crane couldn't get out of the way in time, and the metal just dropped on him from his mid-calf down. And made a thunderous noise, cloud of smoke. And when they were able, by the time this piece of metal is on the ground, by the time they were able to get the metal off of him, there wasn't any leg, there wasn't any bone. It had completely just severed it. It was holding on by his jeans. They found the sole of his boot is what was under there. I've seen that. I've seen a guy, he was a good guy. He was a mechanic, and the machinery that we ran, it would need fixed. So the maintenance person would fix it, right? Well, they have these lockout tagouts, and what a lockout tagout means is you're supposed to shut the machine off. You put this tag on it saying that it is for repairs and that it's not to be used. So he did the lockout tagout, but he left the machine on. One of the hydraulic lines was leaking, and he's working on this stuff, these machines all day, so he's already greasy. But this fluid is spraying on him now, and he's trying to get it shut off. But he had a torch by him. Well, with that mist right about the torch, which is, the fluid is not usually flammable like that, but it was spraying out. I don't know what happened, but you saw, I was on a machine all the way across the warehouse, and you saw a big ball of flames, and you hear this man yell. And when you hear that man yell and scream, you don't know what's happening. You're on the other side. You just see this great big ball of smoke. You shut your machine down right away because you see fire. You come running out. I came running out of the aisle, and I see this man on fire coming towards me. And we all ran and grabbed, they had these little emergency fire kits and safety kits and things by us, and we wrapped that man in a blanket, and we got him we got the flames put out first of all, and we're doing our regular CPR procedures that we know to do to make sure he's okay. If someone calls an ambulance, and if you've ever been in a steel mill or a factory, you've seen something like this, you know what I'm talking about. So we get the fire out. He's sitting there wrapped up in this blanket, this son of a bitch. And he says, "Can somebody light a cigarette for me?" Absolutely not, sir. You just nearly burned up. What? But we lit a cigarette for him. We let him have the cigarette. And we waited until the ambulance came. And yeah, but that's, laughter and something that's just one of the things that I saw. So, it's a natural occurrence. It was nothing new, and death was nothing new to these guys, and I knew that was my time to get the hell out of there. I've seen guys get burned up in furnaces. I've heard stories of guys get burned up in furnaces. I've seen guys lose fingers in that blanchard grinder I was telling you about. It was crazy. My mom had always said, take a college class, and I was too hard-headed. I loved it. It was really sad to see those guys get hurt. I didn't want to get hurt like that, so I made a decision, and I just started educating myself as much as I could, as fast as I could, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I'm still friends with some of those guys today. Those guys are men. If you had a problem, this is how the steel mill was. If you had a problem, there was no calling HR. There was no snitching on anybody. You wouldn't make it out of there. What you did was, you would say, hey, I got to take care of something at lunch. The other guy would say, I got to take care of something at lunch. Sometimes they'd sit around and watch you, but most of the time it would be you and him. You go out and you fought. You came back from lunch and you proceeded with work. They would also hire a lot of felons and cons, and they were pretty good guys. I never had a problem with anybody, and everybody was like family. Even when you went out back and you fought, everybody was like family, because we knew this could be your last night. That's job was one of the biggest things that made me change my life. So with that, I think that was the most depressing, funniest story I've told in a while. I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something. That it's never too late. It's never too late. With that being said, you guys have a good evening, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Big Unc out.